NASCAR Cup Series Playoffs.
Ready to go.
If it's one goal, if it's one win, so you gotta do the job.
Amigo.
Time for the nonsense. No time for the nonsense. Gotta go, trust the process.
He won and got me in.
Trying to stay in the game.
I be only cause I'm on it. It's the moment I've been waiting all my whole life.
Take what's yours, baby.
Lay it all on the line. This is my time.
I feel pretty proud of you.
Celebration.
This is my time.
Pressure continues to build.
Welcome in live to Atlanta Motor Speedway down here on pit road, and the chase for the championship begins right now. It's the opening race for the NASCAR Cup Series Playoffs. Thanks so much for joining us here on your Sunday. I am Alex Weaver, and this place is buzzing with excitement. Fans are starting to file in, and it's 400 miles at the wild card race of Atlanta Motor Speedway. Now, this is not your grandmother's Atlanta. This place races different. It races like a super speedway now, and we see the aero package in the drafting, but it also has the charm and the characteristics still of a mile and a half. We're going to get you fired up for the drop of the green flag with several of our playoff drivers. Now, the green flag will be taking place at 3 p.m. Eastern on USA, so you're going to want to make sure that you're tuning into that. But 16 drivers want to be crowned a champion in 2024. Let's take a look at the playoff standings entering today's race. We see Kyle Larson atop the playoff board now, 35 points above the elimination line. But if you look right there, at that elimination line, it is so close in points between Alex Bowman, Chase Briscoe, and the rest of the drivers there on the bubble. And talking to those drivers this weekend, they say the key to Atlanta is surviving this place. You don't want to go into Watkins Glen and Bristol for the next two races in a huge points deficit. But one of our playoff drivers, Denny Hamlin, had some issues in qualifying. On his qualifying lap, the driver heard a loud pop. He was battling some engine issues and took it to the garage and diagnosed it. He'll start at the rear of today's field. But a non-playoff driver, Michael McDowell, showed his speed and flexed those muscles on a super speedway once again. He's your Busch Light pole sitter, his fourth consecutive super speedway pole, the first driver to do it since Bill Elliott in 1985 and 1986. Let's take a look at our top 10 starting grid. We mentioned Michael McDowell there on the pole. It'll be the reigning champ, Ryan Blaney, joining him on the front row. And the top 10 is stacked with playoff drivers and non-playoff drivers, so that'll be how it looks for the drop of the green. But now, let's welcome in a driver who's rolling off 12th for today's race, making his 100th career start in the NASCAR Cup Series. First time ever in the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. Harrison Burton, you got the win at Daytona, but welcome to the playoffs.
Yeah, it's very fun. I've been told I was getting the 100th start this week, and I'm like, oh my gosh, am I that old? I'm starting to get gray hairs and everything. But no, it's just been a really fun opportunity to get the win in Daytona, move into the playoffs now with kind of new purpose with our team from kind of getting cleansed of our sins of the past of this season, getting that win. Winning cures all in this sport. So getting that win and getting in this playoff race, you look at the bubble, we're right there. So just have to go execute these next three races, and you never know. We can keep playing spoiler and move on, and you never know what'll happen.
Well, we spoke to you in Victory Lane at Daytona, and you told me that it hadn't really set in yet that you had won. So now, 2-3 weeks removed, has it set in that you're a NASCAR Cup Series winner and at Daytona?
Yeah, I think that first lap at Darlington, the week after in practice, when everything kind of else fades away and you get back in the car, I think that's when it set in finally, right? Like, no one cares about last week anymore. Now we're moving on to this week, and obviously I've been tagged in all these videos of me screaming, looking like an idiot. So it's just such a fun time with me and my team, and happy to experience those memories, and then moving on to the future, trying to make more.
Well, lucky for you, we're back at a super speedway, and your best finish here at Atlanta has been 10th back in 2022. How do you improve that, coming off of knowing that you guys can get it done at a place like Daytona and coming to the super speedways? How do you improve and make it to victory lane?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've had fast Ford Mustangs at Daytona, Talladega. We've had led laps. We've led laps here. It's just about execution and understanding the differences between Atlanta and Daytona, right? Where handling matters a little bit more. What you do in the pack, how you handle kind of different aero situations is kind of the big, deciding factor of how you're going to come out of this race. So really doing the homework before we showed up. I think, I feel really confident about what I have to do. Just now it's all about just going out and doing it.
Finally, do you feel like an underdog?
Yeah, absolutely. And I should. And there's power in that, though, too. They make movies about underdogs, so hopefully we'll have a story that good.
All right, that's Harrison Burton. He will roll off 12th for today's race. We're now going to make the transition, and we're going to welcome in. He's starting on the front row. He's your reigning 2023 NASCAR Cup Series champion. I know he's trying to go back-to-back this year. It starts now in Atlanta. Ryan Blaney, welcome back to Atlanta.
All right, happy to be here. Standing in the same spot Harrison Burton stood in. It's a dream come true. Nice to be out here. A lot of people here today, so it'll be a good day here at Atlanta.
When you guys move into these playoffs, how much of last year is still atop your brain?
I mean, it's a new year, right? I mean, you can't just reminisce on the past, but I feel like, hey, what are the things that we did really good last year in the playoffs? And let's apply those, and then what can we do better? I feel like that's always kind of a constant, so super happy with kind of like our mental toughness last year. It's a gauntlet, for 9 weeks trying to get to Phoenix, and how do you and your team kind of stay locked in for those weeks and every single weekend and understand that the long term is in effect, but you have to deal with one race at a time, and how can you maximize your effort this day? So I feel like that confidence level is still there, but you can't rely on it, like I said. So we're ready to go for a new year. Great way to kick it off. Hopefully we can start off on the right foot.
Well, you mentioned that right foot. I think you guys found the right speed in the spring here at Atlanta. You were so close to that win. It was one of the most talked about wins we've seen in the NASCAR Cup Series. .003. I don't want to bring up bad memories for you, but you were oh so close. So if you don't mind, let's walk through and what you remember from the spring race in Atlanta.
Yeah, that was an exciting finish, obviously with 3Y with me and Kyle and Daniel. And, both lanes were kind of coming there on the backstretch. And, I had a shot of kind of blocking the 8 in the middle, but I really thought if I would have done that, it was a high percentage of me getting wrecked. So I just kind of picked the bottom, and I knew we were going to be 3 wide and then just drag race it out. And from my point of view, I can see a little bit to my right. I knew I got the 8, but I couldn't see the 99. So I was like, I don't know if we got him or not. And then they told me we lost by, a few thousandths of a second, which I really couldn't be too upset. I've won them by almost that much too. So just an exciting finish. Hopefully we see that kind of excitement today, and hopefully we can be on the other end of that finish.
We hear drivers or athletes in other sports, like football players and baseball players, they'll have their background on their phone is like motivation. Do you have that Atlanta, that photo finish somewhere just for motivation today?
No, I have something else. I change over to in the season that kind of motivates me. But no, I don't want that. That would just like bring up, not heartache, but like, dang, we missed it. I don't want that daily reminder. So I need like a motivation for me on the background of my phone that when I look at it every morning. So no, it's something a little Muhammad Ali I got, a little something from him that I had the same thing last year actually. And then the winter I change it over to like my nephews or Gianna. And then when the season starts, I kind of change my lock screen back to like, all right, this is my mindset through the year. But yeah, there's little things I think everyone kind of does that get you going.
Well, you guys took to qualifying yesterday. You were oh so close to being on the pole here again. And I know that you said that you lost a little bit of speed on your qualifying lap. What more could you have found to start on the pole today?
Yeah, I really don't know that we could have found anything. We just slowed down a little bit from round 1 to round 2, and the 34 picked up a little bit of pace. So, whatever that was, I'm not sure. The speedway stuff is finicky. Like, it's not like, I can drive in deeper or I can do this. It's just, all right, hey, do you pick up or not? But I thought my car drove really well. Nice to start on the front row. Hopefully we can keep that track position and understand through the day you'll kind of be shuffled back and forth, but it's nice to have early, nice to have a good pit stall, and looking forward to the Dent Wizard number 12 Ford Mustang. Hopefully, like I said, can at least battle for the win at the end. That's all you can ask for, and you just hope you make the right decisions.
Finally, you're 5th in points in the playoff standings entering today's race, and I know it is so close all throughout those 16 drivers with you guys. You're 13 above the elimination line. What's the goal for today? Because Watkins Glen and Bristol are looming there in the distance.
Yeah, I think the first 3 of this round are pretty tough, very different tracks. You have a speedway here, the Glen with the brand new tire, and then Bristol, we saw how that was in the spring with all the tire issues. So, I don't know. I think just go try to have a solid day. I've always approached these speedways as just how can I do my best to control the race, try to get as many points, stages as you can, because you never know where you're going to finish. You can get caught up in someone else's mess. So, yeah, I don't know. Try to maximize your day. Obviously, winning is like the main goal, and so you don't have to worry about it. But try to be realistic of like just have a good day, do your job to the best of your ability. Me, pit road, pit crew, and then whatever else happens. So just have a solid day execution-wise and see where it ends us.
Well, we appreciate your time today. Go have some fun.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
That is Ryan Blaney, who finished top 10 in the last 4 races here at Atlanta. So a lot of success in this new style of racing here at Atlanta. We're going to welcome in the driver now of the number 48, Alex Bowman. Welcome to Atlanta. All 4 cars of Cindric Motorsports are locked into the playoffs. So let's start with that. How are you guys able to click on all cylinders this season?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like as a whole we've been pretty good. As the 48 team, we've been a little bit streaky. Had streaks of running really well, and the last month or so has been pretty miserable. So I feel like we're in a good spot, though. We've worked really hard at being super prepared and super focused on these last 10 races, and qualified a little better than I thought we would, and hopefully have a lot of handling dialed in. It's going to be hot and slick, but should be pretty good today.
Well, if you guys don't know Alex Bowman, he's pretty chill and even kill. He is, you show up every day and you're pretty much the same. The most excited I've ever seen you is at Chicago. You obviously win the Chicago street race. Such an incredible win for the organization, for you and your crew chief, Blake Harris. What do you remember from Chicago now that we're months removed?
Yeah, I think for me, just as a human, to overcome the injuries that led up to that, and to get back in victory lane kind of after all the hardships, meant a lot to me. So super thankful for all the support that I've had from Cindric Motorsports and everybody that made that possible, because you get hurt a couple times and you start to second guess things sometimes. So certainly being able to get back in victory lane meant a lot to me. It was a really good time for sure, and definitely an enjoyable day.
We also have some news from this weekend. I know some folks in the media have asked you about your future and what 2025 and beyond will look like for you. I heard you made some phone calls to Cindric Motorsports just to make sure that you still had a seat. What's going on?
Well, yeah, certainly rumors kind of just flying everywhere, but I get it. There's really high expectations at Cindric Motorsports, and we've certainly been a little bit off, but yeah, as far as all that goes, I'm good, and excited for what the future holds here driving this 48 car. So it's been a lot of fun. Certainly glad to have Media Week over with and just go and perform for the next 10 weeks. I think that's the most important thing.
When we come to a place like here that is racing like a super speedway, I know it's not Daytona and I know it's not Talladega, but Atlanta is very different than what we're used to seeing now. Balancing, there's you and 15 other playoff drivers, but also a slew of drivers who don't really care if they're taking a playoff driver out or not. How do you balance the aggression level here today at Atlanta?
Yeah, I made 1 lap in the spring, so got to be better than that, right? But definitely, trying to make it to the end and have a shot at it at the end. But also, stage points are going to be incredibly important throughout this playoff run. This first round is pretty stressful, so just trying to be on the right side of things. I feel like not having that learning experience in the spring is definitely a little bit of a setback, but studied pretty hard, and I feel like we've really focused on handling, and hopefully that shows up today. So yeah, hopefully we're on the right side of all that. There's definitely, there's going to be crashes, and it's always easy to get caught up in somebody else's mess here at Atlanta. So just focused on what we ourselves can control.
Well, you mentioned controlling things. You'll roll off 11th, but you're 12th in points. And I know you drivers don't like to look at some of these things, but it's tied at the elimination line. It is so close in points. What are the goals for today?
Yeah, just have a good solid day, get stage points, and run top 10. Obviously, we want to go win. That's the number 1 goal, but realistically, stage points in the top 10, and I feel like we're in a good spot. So just got to keep plugging away at it and just execute at a high level, do my job correctly, and do the best I can. And I know everybody at Cindric Motorsports will give me a good piece, and we'll go from there.
Well, we appreciate you stopping by. The 48 of Alex Bowman, he'll roll off 11th for today's race. And we're going to be joined by another one of our Powerhouse organization drivers. We mentioned all 4 Cindric Motorsports cars in the playoffs, but all 3 Team Penske cars are also going after a championship. The driver of the number 2, Austin Cindric, welcome back to Atlanta. Are you excited to be at a super speedway-ish today?
Yeah, it's definitely kind of its own beast, but certainly excited. Our discount tire, our Menards Ford Mustang is pretty fast. Obviously qualifying in the top 5, feel pretty good about it. Got quick state on the hood for the quick state 400, first race of the playoffs. Yeah, pretty excited.
You're starting 5th today. What did you feel inside of that blue oval Ford yesterday in qualifying?
Well, I think you saw yesterday in the Xfinity race, handling will be important. I think that's the first box we got to check is make sure the car drives well to where I can be aggressive in the pack. And obviously it's going to be a day race. Most of these races have ended at night. I think that keeps the pack close. So I think being able to make moves comes down to how it handles. But I thought our stuff drove pretty well for qualifying trim yesterday. You try and trim the thing out and it drives pretty bad. So honestly, I was pretty satisfied with what we got with what we're starting with. But that's only 2 laps, and we got a lot more to do today.
Well, we're obviously opening the playoffs here at Atlanta, and you got the win when you locked in at Gateway. Knowing that your team was able to go out there and capitalize and to find victory lane, what does that say about this 2 crew for this season?
Well, I think it shows us where our ceiling is, right? I mean, you could say, oh, I put it together on the best day, and that only gets you 10th or 5th, whereas, we were able to put it together and have a great day, and that equals a win. So I think that's proven as an example for us of what we're capable of. It's just doing it on a more consistent basis. And but I really do think in the first couple rounds here, it's really about not making mistakes, not having the big blow-ups, being able to execute, and something I know we're capable of. And otherwise, we got the speed, we got the team. Obviously, got great teammates to work with today. So I think we have just as good a shot as anybody.
When we come to a place like Atlanta that we now see this aero package, we see the drafting with you guys, how different is Atlanta from Daytona and Talladega?
Well, I think it's purely because it's smaller. I mean, the handling matters more because the corners are tighter, and the runs are bigger because it's hard to stay close. So the separation creates those huge runs, and some of them are hard to defend. And sometimes it's, how do you as a leader decide what's the best place for you to fall, because you're not going to hold on to it. You don't see guys holding the lead for an entire stint unless it's single file. So I think that's going to be consistent today.
We normally see these wrecks happen in the middle of the pack. So for you drivers, and I'm asking you this because we've seen you be aggressive on some of these final laps, especially at super speedways. Do you want to be up front? Do you want to be riding around in the back, playing it safe? Where would you like to be, say, like stage 2 of this race?
Leading. Yeah, I mean, you said all the wrecks happen in the middle of the pack, and leading is at the front of the pack, not the middle. So having a fast car helps with a lot of that. And otherwise, I'd rather wreck out being up front than wreck out doing nothing.
Spoken like a true race car driver. Finally, we talked to Harrison Burton right now, who is sitting where he is in points, but you're obviously 10th. You're 2 above the elimination line, and the elimination line is so close with points right now. How do you feel about you and your team? Underdogs? We're good on points. Where's the mindset with you?
I mean, I'm not really in a position to decide what I am versus everybody else. I just know who I am and what we're capable of. And past that, I think there's 10 guys that are all really similar in points. So I think there's everything to play for. I'd rather be above than below. But past that, like I said before, I think we've got a good shot as anybody.
All right, well, that's Austin Cindric. He is going to try and go after it here at Atlanta. Good luck today. We're going to look at our top 10 starting grid right now for the way that it's going to shake out at the drop of the green flag for this race. Austin Cindric obviously in the playoffs. He'll roll off 5th for today, but you see it's Michael McDowell, Ryan Blaney on the front row, but then you have drivers Todd Gilliland, Josh Berry. They're not playoff drivers. They're just going after nothing but a win here today. So we know that the aggression level will be high where those drivers are concerned. And it'll be Chase Briscoe who will roll off on the 10th place position. We're going to talk to him a little bit here in a second and get his thoughts on being the latest winner in the NASCAR Cup Series, as well as heading to Atlanta and shocking the world to even make the playoffs. But let's take a look back at one of the photo finishes of the NASCAR Cup Series. It's still talked about. We're talking about it definitely this weekend, the spring finish from Atlanta. Take a look.
Hi, boys. This one's the marathon.
A completely different super speedway racing experience.
Let's make it happen.
Green flags in the air.
Trouble along the front stretch. These guys are pedaling hard.
Couple deep breaths, man. We got this.
Here comes Blaney on the outside for the lead. Crossover move. Kyle Busch up high.
Here they come to the flag.
They're 3 wide for the lead.
Photo finish.
Finish is under review.
Scoring has the margin at 0.00 seconds.
Race clear is the 99.
How awesome was that?
It was so damn close. Man, I can't thank everyone enough. We wrecked lap 2. The guy did an amazing job fixing this car. Woo! Let's go!
Well, that is how Daniel Suarez locked into the playoffs, but a new thing for NASCAR this playoff season. Be sure and check out NASCAR Inside the Playoffs Thursday on True TV and Max. Host Shannon Spake, Steve Letarte, Mamba Smith, and this week Kyle Busch react, discuss, and debate the world of NASCAR. Catch it at 7 p.m. Eastern on Thursday night as the cast will have plenty to talk about, I'm sure, after this great Atlanta race this afternoon. Don't be on the outside, be on the inside. NASCAR Inside the Playoffs, 7 p.m. Eastern, Thursday on True TV and streaming on Max. Now we are closing in less than an hour and a half away from the drop of the green here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And if you can't see the atmosphere behind me, let me describe it for you. We have the driver intro stage. There are tons of fans filing in. We have fans taking photos here in Victory Lane. Our drivers are starting to make sure that they're at their driver appearances. They're signing autographs already and keeping their schedule on lock here. But it's an exciting day. It's a hot day here at Atlanta, as you can imagine, and our drivers have 400 miles in the Quaker State 400 here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. The easiest way to lock into the next round of the playoffs is to win here at Atlanta, but you have some hungry drivers that are not in the playoffs that also want to find victory lane here. It's a chance for them to show that their season is still a success and that they can still win inside of their fast race cars. So Atlanta Motor Speedway definitely in store for a good one here today. But last week, we saw the regular season finale at the track that was just too tough to tame. It was Darlington Raceway, and we're going to take a look back at last Sunday night. It was the 14 to Chase Briscoe that shocked the world.
Can't say enough about Chase. He promised us last week that he was going to bring everything he had all night tonight.
Great start by the 14, matched by the start of the 8. Lots of positions in one set of corners.
Briscoe Bush racing for the win and a shot at the playoffs.
Plenty of time to make it happen here.
And he's within a colleague.
Southern 500 win is going to go to Chase Briscoe as he holds off Kyle Busch.
Oh my God, we're going to freaking Southern 500, guys.
Great job. Damn, close.
To come in here for a last-ditch effort and have a shot. I wanted it last week. I wanted it this week. I wanted it in Atlanta. I wanted it in Vegas. Maybe I'm a washed-up old dog, but hopefully I can find a few more trophies.
Kyle Busch and the 8 crew on the outside looking in for the playoffs. He wanted that win so bad at Darlington, but it wasn't the first time that Chase Briscoe and Kyle Busch were battling at Darlington. Obviously, we've seen some epic finishes between those two, but Chase Briscoe will remember last week's win for a very long time. We're going to have him joining us here to close out our show shortly. He is making his way to us. But now let's take a look again at the top 10 starting grid for today's race here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. I mentioned Chase Briscoe. He will be joining us. He's rolling off 10th for today's race. And then let's just walk through these 10 drivers that you see here at the starting grid, because there was really some speed found by our non-playoff drivers here in qualifying on Saturday. But you have William Byron, who will roll off 9th, and then Austin Dillon, who is also one of those RCR cars that unfortunately did not make the playoffs this season. He'll roll off 8th. And then it is our 2022 champion, Joey Logano, who rolls off 7th for today's race. Our points leader right there in the number 5 for Hendrick Motorsports, Kyle Larson, will roll off 6th. We spoke to Austin Cindric earlier, who, you heard it, I said it at the top of the show as well, it's surviving and advancing for Atlanta. You just want to make sure that you keep those race cars safe. He'll roll off 5th. And then we have 2 non-playoff drivers that are sitting in 3rd and 4th with Todd Gilliland and Josh Berry. And then the front row will be the 2 super fast Fords of Ryan Blaney and Michael McDowell. Let's take a look now from our top 10 starting grid to our 16 playoff driver standings. This is entering today's race at Atlanta. So we have Atlanta Motor Speedway, and then for this round, you'll see Watkins Glen, which is a road course, very different than Atlanta. And then you'll see the short track action of Bristol Motor Speedway under the lights there, which always brings out the emotions and the tempers. But a lot of drivers have said that this is a round not to be underestimated, that this round to open up the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs is difficult and challenging. So right now you'll see below the elimination line entering Atlanta is Martin Truex Jr. in the 19.6 at the 16th position. Then you have Ty Gibbs. Those 2 drivers are tied, 1 below the elimination line. Harrison Burton in the Wood Brothers number 21 is sitting in the 14th position. He and Chase Briscoe are tied right now, right below the elimination line. But then you have Alex Bowman in the 48, your Chicago street race course winner, who is only tied with Chase Briscoe right there at the start of the elimination line. And then Daniel Suarez, your reigning winner from Atlanta Motor Speedway earlier this spring, the 99 team, is 1 point above the elimination line. Austin Cindric, Joey Logano, I mean, all the points are so close. You can literally divide them up by about 3 or 4 of a difference there between 8th and 16th position. Brad Keselowski obviously sits in 8th. But Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, and William Byron are your top 4 drivers right now. And the points that separate those guys are less than 20 points. So I know all of those drivers we have had a chance to talk to today. We've spoken to all the playoff drivers between yesterday and today. And it is really about not making mistakes here at Atlanta. You have to find that speed, work with your manufacturing teammates, because this race is like a super speedway. It's drafting. It's working together not only with your organization teammates, but also with your Chevrolet, with your Toyota, and with your Ford teammates. This place races differently, and we're going to see the pack racing. We're also going to see the end of stage 3. I have a feeling will be pretty wild, just speaking from the aggression level of our playoff drivers and our non-playoff drivers alike going after this win here at Atlanta. Well, it is building. It is very exciting here. The fans are starting to crowd around me. They're starting to notice that drivers are making their way out here onto pit road to take some photos, sign some autographs. And the energy here is building in Atlanta for sure. We are going to have a packed grandstand out if you see behind us. That's also our playoffs. Right there is our driver intro stage. So next up for our drivers, they basically will come and do all of their media availabilities and all of their pre-race obligations. Then they head to drivers meeting where they watch a safety video, meet with VIPs and dignitaries for today's race. Then they hit that stage right behind us for driver intros. They'll be introduced to all the fans here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And then last but not least, it's the anthem. It's the flyover. It's everything that makes a NASCAR race so great, and they take inside of their race cars for 400 miles here at Atlanta Motor Speedway for the Quaker State 400. Now, here at Atlanta, the next race up is Watkins Glen. We've also talked to some drivers and pit crew members about those as well, because it's a challenging pit road. You're pitting backwards at Watkins Glen. So Atlanta right now is the chance to make sure that you're getting those stage points, that you're going into Watkins Glen just in case you have a mistake in that middle race. And then Bristol Motor Speedway is so exciting, so action-packed, and you never know who's going to have a little bent fenders and a little hurt feelings when you leave Bristol Motor Speedway. It's the best part about Bristol. So now we're going to take a look, because every Tuesday you can find Corey LaJoy and the gang at Stacking Pennies. Let's take a look at last week's episode.
Hey race fans, Corey LaJoy here. Join Ryan Flores and myself for Stacking Pennies each week. I'll break down my race and explain what happened right out of my windshield.
Plus, we award the Dogs of the Week for the best pit crews and go in-depth on all the money stops, pit road mistakes, and penalties.
And we've got a ton of guests. We have SVG stopping by. We had Ricky Stenhouse after he punched Kyle Busch in the face. We've had Bubba. We've had all sorts of guys in here in the Nonsense Garage, so you do not want to miss it. Check us out on Sirius XM Channel 90, YouTube, or wherever you find your podcasts. Each and every week, Stacking Pennies. That's what's up.
That is Stacking Pennies with Corey LaJoy and Ryan Flores, who is one of the crew guys on the number 12 for Ryan Blaney. He's a reigning champion crew guy, and I had the opportunity to talk with him yesterday about Watkins Glen, who also brought up the challenges that it presents for pit crews over the next couple of weeks, especially here at Atlanta. It's hot. They have a challenge down there on pit road with those athletes at well. So let's take a look now at our top 10 starting grid as we continue to wait on Chase Briscoe to join us here on the show. The top 10 for Atlanta Motor Speedway today, this is how they'll roll off. Michael McDowell won the Busch Light pole. He told me on Saturday after his qualifying session that he finished 8th here earlier in the spring, and that they had the car to beat that race. All he needed to do was to make sure that he didn't make mistakes like he made in the spring, and that he thought they had the winning race car. So keep your eye out, because the 34 thinks he has speed, obviously shown it in his qualifying lap. And then it's the reigning champ of Ryan Blaney, the number 12 crew, will go to work and try and redeem his photo finish. .003. Ryan Blaney lost that race to Daniel Suarez earlier in the spring. And then you have the two non-playoff drivers of Todd Gilliland and Josh Berry. We spoke with Austin Cindric. He'll roll off 5th. The points leader right now for the NASCAR Cup Series Playoffs, Kyle Larson. Then it's Joey Logano, Austin Dillon, William Byron, and Chase Briscoe. We are still waiting on Chase to join us here. He's running a little bit of late. He had an appearance earlier, so he's making our way to us. We are going to talk to the latest winner of the NASCAR Cup Series. But let's take a look now, because Chase shocked the world and got into the playoffs. But here's how the playoff standings look. We just want to keep reminding you, because these points are so close, and they're going to change so much today. So if you have time, take a screenshot, and let's compare between the start of this race and what this playoff grid will look like at the end of 400 miles in Atlanta. Martin Truex Jr. and Ty Gibbs sit right now in 16th and 15th position. They are -1 below the elimination line. Then it's Harrison Burton, Chase Briscoe, Alex Bowman. They're all tied right there around the bubble. Daniel Suarez, your reigning winner at Atlanta Motor Speedway from earlier this spring, sits 1 point above the elimination line. It's the Team Penske teammates of Austin Cindric and Joey Logano that are tied at 2 above the elimination line. Brad Keselowski, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, and then rounding up your top 4 are William Byron, Tyler Reddick, your regular season champion, Christopher Bell, and then Kyle Larson sits above the elimination line at 35 points. He's the points leader right now in Atlanta. He's looking to have just a solid day and really survive this race. He tells me that he's a little nervous when it comes to super speedways. He just wants to finish these races and make sure he's there at the end and not creating chaos for his team for the next 2 weeks. Let's take a look back, though. We were here earlier this year. It's how Daniel Suarez locked into the playoffs. Let's take a look back at the spring finish from Atlanta. So Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch, and Daniel Suarez are coming off of turn 2 and 3. Right there neck and neck for the lead. It's 3 wide all the way back from the leaders. They come in close to the start finish, bumping just a little bit, but kept it pretty clean. And you see the photo finish that we've all seen from Atlanta in the spring. It was one of the best finishes I've ever witnessed in person. It was Kyle Busch in the middle, Daniel Suarez there on the inside, and Ryan Blaney on the outside. It was Daniel Suarez who squeaked out the win. He beat Ryan Blaney to the line by .003. It's a photo finish for the NASCAR Cup Series, and that's how Daniel Suarez and the 99 crew locked into the playoffs. So we're in store for more of that action here at Atlanta. We want to make sure that you are aware that you have time. You get some snacks, get some drinks, find your spot wherever you're going to watch the race, because it's 3 p.m. Eastern on USA. You're not going to want to miss it, because this opens the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs, and it's going to be a ton of action. Unfortunately, Chase Briscoe was unable to get here today, but hopefully we're going to hear from that driver at some point during today's race. Chase Briscoe will be the latest winner in the NASCAR Cup Series, and I think we're getting word. Is he walking this way? I think Chase is walking this way, so we're going to hold on for Chase just 1 minute to make sure that he's talking to us and we get the latest winner in the NASCAR Cup Series. So Atlanta Motor Speedway, Chase right now sits below the elimination line. He shocked the world with that playoff win at Darlington, and I know that he's hoping to capitalize, but going back-to-back here in the NASCAR Cup Series is a challenge. It's tough, and he's going from a place like Darlington that runs so different than Atlanta Motor Speedway, but he has a lot of blue oval Fords that have a ton of speed here to help him out today. We're going to have Chase Briscoe joining us here. I'm not going to give you a hard time, but you're running a bit late. I had to fill a lot for you. Welcome, Chase Briscoe, the latest winner. Welcome to Atlanta.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Sorry I'm late. It's been a crazy day. We've been wide open. So, yeah, thanks for having me, though.
That's what happens when you win and you shock the world.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's definitely been a busy week. It's been a good week, obviously. But, yeah, certainly I feel like it's been the busiest week of my entire Cup career, just with everything that we got going on with the playoffs and celebrating the win, doing stuff at the shop, and then trying to figure out the twin situation. So, yeah, it's been a busy week.
Well, you weren't the only one that was celebrating your win. You have a lot of 14 fans, and a really special one that I know you retweeted was a fan of yours named Connor who was celebrating your win at Darlington. We took that from social media, but what does this mean when you see this?
Yeah, it's super cool. You know, the fact that, you know, we have people that are that excited for us to win, it's pretty cool. You know, like my family is that excited, but it's cool for me to see fans that are, you know, just genuinely that happy that we win the race. So it's been a long 2 years for Chase Briscoe fans, so I'm glad they were able to celebrate it. Yeah, it's cool, you know, reach out on social media, and that's what social media is good for, right, is you get to connect with people that you'd probably never get to meet. So they are fellow Hoosiers like myself, which is cool, and yeah, so they wanted to come to the race this weekend, so it's cool to have Connor and his fiance here. They're actually getting married in 2 weeks, so it's like an early honeymoon, I guess.
Well, you retweeted it and asked Connor what his closest racetrack was, and you just mentioned he's from Indiana. Connor, come on over. You're a Georgia boy today. He comes to the race right after you win with your favorite driver. Everybody welcome Connor. Connor, we saw the video. How did you become a Chase Briscoe fan?
Well, I always grew up loving the 14 car with Tony Stewart, and I've just grown to love watching Chase race over the couple of years, and finally see what he deserved to get in that win last week. So it was really cool to see him win.
So I know Chase said that you're getting married in 2 weeks, but he also said that you're from Indiana. Did you fly here specifically for this guy right here?
No, we drove. Yeah, we decided to drove. We were going to go to Talladega, but I want this month to be the best month of my life. So, plus he had a rocket here in the spring, so hopefully we can have the same luck and get to Victory Lane again.
My final question for you, Connor. I know it's special to come out here and to hang out with your favorite driver, but who do you think wins at Atlanta today?
I think I'm going to have to go with Chase. Chase on that one.
I think he's a little biased. All right, Chase, so obviously you have some fans rooting for you. How do you get it done here in Atlanta?
Yeah, it's going to take just total execution. I mean, honestly, the kind of the same thing as Darlington, right? You got to be able to execute from start to finish. And our car was really, really good here in the spring, like Connor mentioned, and I didn't do a very good job of putting it all together. So hopefully, today things will go our way, kind of like it did last week, and we just have a clean, solid day. With the playoffs, you just can't have a bad day in a 3-race stretch. So for us, we obviously want to win the race, but we need to just keep the big picture in mind. So hopefully, we're still running at the end. If you're still running at the end, you're probably going to have a good day here. So hopefully, we can have a good day.
All right, Connor and his fiance are here. Chase, I know you'll be busy, but does he get an invite to the wedding at least? Just an obligatory invite.
He absolutely is invited to the wedding.
Yeah, I'm the best man. Yeah.
Chase Briscoe is now the best man of Connor and his fiance's wedding. All right, you guys, go enjoy it. Thanks so much for joining us. Chase, have some fun today. Let's look at the top 10 starting grid for today's race. Chase Briscoe will be racing from the 10th place starting position. Here's your lineup. This is what it looks like. Michael McDowell, Ryan Blaney, obviously on the front row. And that's it. That's Chase Briscoe. He's our latest winner in the NASCAR Cup Series. Right now, he has to go to drivers' meeting, driver intros, as well as the rest of our field. And that's their race day, 400 miles at Atlanta Motor Speedway. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be exciting. We have some drafting. We have some aero package. But you're also going to see a little 1.5 mile racing. It's electric here at Atlanta. Make sure and tune in to USA at 3 p.m. Eastern. Thanks so much for joining us, and happy race day.
South of Atlanta, Georgia, Atlanta Motor Speedway.
It is a must-see race.
400 miles, a lot of crazy things going to happen here.
There is a sense of urgency.
Some of those guys are racing super hard. That's probably why. We'll stay in it all day.
Feels like playoff energy down here.
Maximize our day, get our points where we can.
Every time we have the racing here, it is intense.
Let's be smooth, let's be fast, and let's flex on them.